You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. We are here once again, and today we have another awesome guest for y'all. Today, we're going to talk to a author of an amazing book that is for kids, and you should definitely go get your copy on Amazon or anywhere you can get a book. It's called Peanut the Penguin, and it's a pretty cool book. It's a little penguin, has a unique gift, a beautiful singing voice. He wants to sing, for other penguins, on the shore, but there's a problem. He loves to sing at night, and other penguins want to sleep. So yeah, I want to leave a cliffhanger right there and go back to our guest, Aruna Lepore, and say, first and foremost, how you doing?
I am good, thank you. And thank you so very much for having me on your podcast. Happy to be here.
You're welcome, man. I had to have a cliffhanger because I want people to go buy this book. So before we dive into the book you wrote, Peanut the Penguin, by the way, real quick, you didn't just write this, you also illustrated this too. So pretty awesome artwork.
Thank you. That means a lot. Painting was something that I have always enjoyed. I have to say, once I had kids, painting went on a back burner. So it was really it was a good experience for me to bring the brushes back out and the paints back out and have a reason to paint.
And you're not a stranger to entrepreneurship, so kind of take us back. Tell us a little bit about your family, because it sounds like your family was into entrepreneurship, and kind of give us that experience. Yeah,
of course. It is interesting that I come from that background and end up being a children's book author. And there are a number of things, I suppose, that led to such a change in the path that my life took. I did start off in business in the sense that my dad was very entrepreneurial. He started several businesses, and sadly he passed away. My mom took over, and my mom still runs the business to this day. She's been there for almost 50 years, so she's become quite a businesswoman in her own respect. Of course, once my brother and I were born. And I should say that I'm from Caribbean island of Trinidad, Trinidad and Tobago. And it's very much the culture, I would say, there, where parents start a business, usually their kids at some point will take it over. So it was pretty much understood that we would take that over. And that's where I worked with my mom after doing my undergraduate and graduate studies, and in between there, I was working with her as well. So that's the path that my life was taking. Then I got married and I moved to the United States of America because that's where my husband was from. And once I had kids, honestly, everything took a whole change. It was a whole new look on life. Motherhood it became the thing that I did and that I wanted to do. And I was fortunate enough that I could stay home and raise the kids. And looking back, I wouldn't do it any other way. My kids are now 14 and 9. And I've been with them every day from the moment they were born. A very hands-on mom. I believe in that. I believe in being there for them at every moment of the way, guiding them, letting them be independent, but being there to support them. And I think that in that motherhood, sort of set into motion the values that were instilled in me by my own mom. And I could talk more about that in a bit. Those values, I would say, especially values of empathy. When going back to my mom, very strong mother. We have had a lot of challenges in life, very tragic challenges. We've lost immediate family, and my mom always says, once having gone through that, she can face anything. Very strong, yet she was 100% there for me always, unconditional love. And it's something that she taught me very early in life, that unconditional love. And I think now that I have my own kids, that's what I relate to them. So all the values that I feel that she herself, my mom that is, instilled in me, came out in me as I became a mother. Now, when my kids were young, I always, of course, one of the things I love to do is read stories to them. And I would sometimes make up stories, and they always love when I make up a story. So I would lie in bed and I would think of something, and always it would be a story about a character that you can sympathize with. Usually it's a cute animal. Usually it was an animal character. And I would make this story up as I would go along. And always there was a feeling of empathy for this character. And the character would go through some challenge. And at the end, it would always have a happy ending. So I suppose that was the beginning of the new path that my life was going to take some years later. And that is how I got into writing a children's book.
Once again, talking to our guest today, Aruna Lepore. You can go to her website, ArunaMLepore.com. Again, that's ArunaMLepore.com. Backtrack just a little bit. When you were living in Trinidad and you were able to come to the United States, what was it that brought you to the United States?
I came to Florida to do my undergraduate in business because, of course, I was going back home to help run the business. And I met my future husband at the university where I went. I went to University of Miami. And we did the whole long distance relationship. If anyone knows how that works, it was 8 years long. And I was back and forth to Trinidad. I came back to Florida to do my master's in business. And all during that time, it was a choice that I had to make in the end. Do I stay in Trinidad and run the business like I was always meant to? Do I leave and come to the US and get married? And it was a very big decision, very many aspects to consider. Of course, I ended up coming to the US. And that's not to say that I was not still working with my mom. But once kids came along, that changed everything. Because I was such a hands-on mom, I did not leave them to come back to the business to work on it. So I just sort of helped a little bit on the periphery.
So with that being said, let's jump into this book, Peanut the Penguin. And before we kind of talk a little bit about the character, kind of talk a little bit about the process of you painting. How were you trying to frame the look and the colors, and what was that process like for you?
Because I am from the Caribbean, I will have to say that all my paintings always carry a lot of color with it. And as I was saying before, I used to paint. I enjoyed painting. I did a minor during my undergraduate. And when during the process of the book, I was sketching what I thought the character Peanut, the penguin, would look like. And I started to think in my mind, if I had to paint this, maybe it would look like this. I would think about it in my mind. And also, I have to say that I grew up on books that were, this is, before they were computer graphics. And I miss seeing those type of books on bookshelves for kids. When my kids were younger, I used to go looking for picture books. Very often, more often than not, books would be illustrated with computer graphics. And I miss seeing the books that I grew up on. And in fact, I purchased some of those books that I had grown up on. They're almost collector's items now. And I managed to get about 10 or 15 of them. And I would read them to my kids and I would show them the illustrations, and they were all hand painted and, beautiful stories. And I started to think to myself that I would really like to be someone that puts hand painted illustrations on every page and have that available for kids on a bookshelf somewhere. And that's how I started thinking that I think I'm going to try and start. I'm going to do the illustrations. And I really have to say that while the process was happening, it became very challenging. I did this whole book when the pandemic was, when it was very intense and the kids were home doing the kids home. We were all in a big room upstairs. One was on a screen, the other one was on a screen, and I was right smack in the middle with my paintbrush and my easel. And every so often, one or the other would tiptoe over to see what I was doing. And they would always say, sometimes I'd say, oh my gosh, I don't think I could do this. Maybe I should outsource this painting after all. And my kids would always say to me, don't do it. Do the paintings yourself. You know you can do it. In the end, you're going to be happy. Make it your own. And they really were my support the entire way through. I suppose sometimes I look at it as hopefully I instilled in them some of the values that are instilled in me for them to give me that type of support. So I went ahead and I did all the paintings for the story as well. And it was very special because they were involved. I would sometimes take a painting and I would show it to them and I would say, what do you see when you look at this? And if it matched the page of literature that it was associated with, great. If not, I knew I needed to do some changes. Or sometimes they would say, Mom, they always said, Mom, it looks great. They would always start off that way. But why is Peanut's mom's head so big? And I would take a step back and I would look at it and I would say, oh my gosh, you are right. And I would go back and repaint it. So it was really special to have them there, almost be a part of it. And I would not do it any other way.
And you mentioned happiness, and Peanut, the penguin, he ends up finding a solution. And, the problem starts with him singing at night, and it kind of annoys some other penguins. So kind of give us the storyline, just a teaser of the character Peanut.
Yeah, sure. So just like I used to tell my kids stories, I was doing this book as though I was telling them a story. So first of all, we have Peanut, who is adorable little Peanut. He's a little penguin, and he has a beautiful gift. Now, he lives on a beach, and I will say that many times we see penguin books, and usually the penguins are diving off an iceberg. When I did some research, I realized that most of the penguins in this world do not live in a cold, icy, in the Antarctic. Most of them do not. Most penguins live on a more temperate climate. And we used to live in South Africa. And in Cape Town, we would see these penguins come up on the shore. So that was my inspiration. I started thinking about those penguins. And I based it off of that type of environment. So we have this colony, we have little Peanut and his family, his mom, his dad, his little sister, who's even littler than him. And he loves his family loves him, he loves his colony. He does everything like all the other penguins. But the one thing that he does, the one gift that he has that none of the other penguins could do, he has this beautiful singing voice. And he wants to share his gift to all the penguins on the colony. But when he sings at night. And although he's singing, thinking that he's doing something right, sharing his gift, the other penguins are trying to sleep. So they're not hearing his voice. They just know they're getting disturbed and they just want to sleep. So they get very annoyed with him his parents have to remind him not to sing during the night. So he tries to sing during the day. But it does not work out for him because if you're ever at a colony of penguins during the day, it is very loud. So he's not able to do it during the day. He can't do it during the night. And now he's very sad and not sure what to do. So its story sort of takes off from there. What is Peanut to do? In order to share his gift, he's just innocently wanting to do that and does not want to anger the other penguins on the colony. So he has to solve that problem with the help of family. And it's a story that my goal in this story and in any story that I tell or write is to bring out a feeling in kids that I feel, especially today when we have so much negative news around us. Turn on the TV and it's always about a war or it's something political or racial. And I feel there's so much negativity that kids are exposed to now on TV and social media that I really believe that empathy is one emotion I particularly would like for parents to nurture in their children. And in telling a story like this, I want to bring that feeling out. And I have noticed that when I read the story to an audience, I see the faces on these kids. And I've even been told, one mom told me at one time when I was doing the launch, she said, when you got to that part, I started to tear up. And I said, I actually am so happy to hear that because that is the emotion I want to bring out. And then another mom told me that her child started to cry. But then when she read the rest of it, she was so happy for Peanut. And I really, this is what I do for my kids. We make sure that they value and respect everyone's life, every creature, human or creature. I remember back here in Maryland where I live, when we had the cicadas come out a couple of years ago, and my son and I, this was also during the pandemic while I was writing, and he and I would go outside every recess, quote unquote recess from virtual school, and we'd go outside and look at the cicadas, and he would, I remember him following this one cicada. We followed it all around the house. We gave him a name. And every time we would see a cicada out, they would say, "Oh, I wonder if that's Frank," because we named him Frank. Meaning to say that I always like to make sure that my kids, and I feel it's important. I also I'm a teacher's assistant at a nursery school, a preschool, and I'm always careful to make sure that everyone respects everyone else's life, no matter how tiny that life is. And the feeling of empathy toward another being. So that is the goal that I had in writing this particular book, and it's how the storyline goes.
And if you want to...
Yeah. I was going to say also that I try to follow, I like to call it a spoken story, like the old traditional stories. It's almost like a short story for children. It's a full storyline with full illustrations. It's won some awards. It's won the 2022 Book of the Year Award, Creative Child Award, Book Awards, and winner and first place in the Purple Dragon Book Awards. So it's been doing well. It's been getting some good reception.
And if you want to go get this book, you can go at Amazon and just look it up, Peanut the Penguin, and visit her website. It is ArunaMLepore.com. And like you said before, this book is really a source of encouragement for, kids to not just believe in themselves, but to stay, encouraged. Even if it can get kind of shaky in the beginning, there always can be a solution to find at the end. So we don't want to spill the beans, but did Peanut... How did he feel when he found the solution?
How do I feel when he found the solution?
Well, how did he feel in the book?
How did he feel? He was very satisfied. He felt accomplished. and very happy that he accomplished what he set out to do, and with his parents by his side, with his family by his side.
Just as effective for adults than kids, because you said earlier how you had a mother tearing up a little bit. So how important is it for people to use empathy in their lives, daily lives?
Yeah, it's very important. I feel especially now. I think it's one of the most important emotions that we need to nurture in children from a very young age, because they have a lot out there to face. When I say that, there are a lot of opinions, and they will be exposed to these opinions. And I feel like before they are made to believe one way of thinking, I think it's really important that from a very young age, we teach them to accept everyone, accept as important every life, like I said, no matter how big or small, before we expose them to the negativity that they will ultimately, unfortunately, be exposed to. So we need to give them that grounding. And this is one of my ways of putting, in a very small way of putting something out there, but it also goes into parenting as well. On my blog and my website, I'm dabbling in some information about that, about trying to give parents tips on little things that they can do in life, little ways that they can help nurture their kids in that way.
Well, once again, you'll get this award-winning book. You definitely want to go to Amazon and go get this book, Peanut the Penguin. I'm going to have to get this for my nephew. I'm definitely going to have to do that. And like I said, what drew me to the cover was the painting itself. I think that's organic is very powerful, and I thought it was really nice.
Oh, I'm very happy to hear that. That is great feedback. Thank you.
So once again, go visit ArunaMLepore.com. Again, that's ArunaMLepore.com, and you can get her book on Amazon. It's an award-winning book, so you know it has a good turnout of reviews from readers. So get it yourself, Peanut the Penguin. And I want to say thank you, Aruna, for your time.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to have been here. Thanks for having me.